Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Tipsy Lips Spill the Truth. I am more than excited to introduce our special guest to you tonight. But real quick before we do that, if you are there, say hello, type hello in the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from. At any time throughout this discussion, that you have a question, that you have a comment, please share it because you're going to help guide the direction. Rachel and I don't have a script. So this is going to go where it's going to go, and we're real and raw. Real quick, before we move forward, this is brought to you by Besitos Beauty. That is a luxurious lipstick company. We are color with confidence. So make sure you paint your smile and go to besitosbeauty.com and get hooked up with great lip color. So Rachel, real quick, Rachel is a survivor and she is still healing from abuse. All right. She takes women through a 5-step process that's designed to help them heal from past trauma, enhance overall awareness, and increase self-confidence. So Rachel, I could go on, but I want to bring you on and let's get to going. How are you doing tonight?
I'm feeling good tonight, a little nervous, but I'm really glad to be on this live. I know that I'm usually putting out a lot of content, posts, and pre-recorded videos, and so being on a live is definitely stepping out of my comfort zone because it's been a while since I've consistently done it, but we all know that growth happens when we're uncomfortable. So
well, you look amazing, and we have Karen here saying hi. We have Nicole here saying hi. We got Julie here saying hi. We got Samantha saying, "Hey, ladies."
Samantha!
Yay! So let's get to it. So I just want to tap in real quick. You talk about this 5-step process and, healing and confidence and trauma and all the things. Just give us a little backstory on who you are and how you got here.
Sure. So I run All Empowered Women, and I created the Awakening Process, which is this 5-step process that I'm always throwing out there occasionally in all the bio. And it's a process that's typically used for battered women. And I'll tell you the backstory to that is that I used to be a battered woman. And I don't mind identifying as one still, right? There's a lot of women that'll be like, I'm not battered. I'm okay with taking that name because I speak for a battered woman. That's what I do. A lot of the posts that I put out I'm usually using a voice for battered women. And so I grew up in a very toxic household. My dad, he was an alcoholic. He was a narcissist. He was very abusive to my mother and all of us kids. And my mom, she was more of the empath, right? She went to work. She worked hard. She was always forgiving him and she loved him dearly. And we all came here from Africa. So she didn't know much English either.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Your mom didn't?
No. She didn't know any English. In fact, I didn't even speak English until I was 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Learned something new. That's amazing.
Yeah. And the reason I highlight that is because I think that maybe coming up in this country and dealing with something like that, it could be a lot easier to just leave or I'll find resources. But she didn't know English. She had to work to feed us all. And, all of her family was back in Africa. So she didn't really have that leeway. She always had a choice, but it was a lot harder her being here, not knowing English and just trying to put food on the table for us. And so we grew up in a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma, a lot of chaos.
So you just saw it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so how old were you when you found yourself starting to repeat the pattern?
Well, so I was always, and to just kind of backtrack a little bit, I was always the one kid that would sit on the stairway, right? And I'd want to protect my mom. So I would just sit there and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but my presence is going to make a difference. And so I would hear, almost everything. But I would say, honestly, as young as 6th grade, once I started being attracted to boys and having boyfriends, I was always attracted to ones that were very much so like my father, right? Ones that maybe were more so neglectful, ones that showed signs of abuse. And then going into high school, ones that were using drugs, ones that were drinking, going out and partying. And that's what I was attracted to. And that's also what I continue to attract.
Wow. And that's when you realize these patterns, they're ingrained. Like, you know what you know what you see. And so where did it take you? I know that when I saw you speak at a speaking competition that we were both in back in May of 2022, you talked about this moment where like you were in your car with like nothing, and you found like was it a $10 bill or a 20
Yes.
something? Like, share that, because that is, I just remember my mouth dropping when I heard that story.
Yeah, so it led me into just a lot of toxicity, and not only on the behalf of the people I was with, but I was also very toxic myself. And again, we're talking about in this era, before we get to that story, I'm not aware, right? To me, this is normal. This is how people live. I don't know any other way but this, but I do feel that it's completely wrong. And so it led me to a place to where I was just extremely depressed.
Okay.
You know, I was depressed. I had a low self-esteem. I hated myself. And then I hit this year where I had lost my job. I was going through a nasty breakup. I lost custody of my daughter.
How old was she at that time when you lost custody?
Um, she had to have been maybe, I'm thinking maybe like she's 14 now, maybe like 6 years old.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so, I mean, she was talking, she knew who
Yeah,
I
old
was. She
enough.
wasn't like a
Yeah.
little, yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And unfortunately, right, like she is the child that went through all that abuse with me. I'm blessed to say that my son won't have to see the same things that she saw.
Yeah.
So that year was rough. I lost everything. And I really just didn't want to be alive anymore. Right. I didn't want to be here anymore. I just kept saying, like, God, why am I here?
You
Like,
had
why
hit
am I
that. You
here?
had
There's no
hit that.
point.
Yeah, pointless, pointless. Wow. And that's a dark place. If anybody has ever been in that place, you aren't alone, even though you feel completely alone. But that's why we do things like this, because we got to talk about being there. A lot of us have been there and we just don't want to say so, but you're saying so. And I love that you're courageous enough to share that.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of honesty to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as long as I'm in denial or trying to keep a secret or trying to hide even the nastiest parts of myself, then I'm stunting my growth.
Yeah. And I love that. And that tip alone has to be huge in the journey that you take the women that you work with through. And even you owning that piece yourself is such a comfort. That's why I said before we got on here, I'm like, you are just such an inspiration. And I don't think that you realize how much you impact those of us that follow you, even just through your humor. I mean, I love it, but keep going with your story.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and it's good reassurance. And I know that you, as a leader, we know that honestly impacting others really just carries us on our healing journeys.
Yes.
So it's good to know. And
For
so,
sure.
so I had that year where I was just like, and I had burned a lot of bridges, so I wasn't really talking to my family. Again, and then once I lost my daughter, it was like, what am I really here for?
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I remember losing my job, and I had a 45-minute drive that I had to do. I had no money in my pocket, and I was driving on a back road, and I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be living. There's nothing for me here. And then I was like, and then those little things that tip us, and then it was like, and my gas tank is empty, and I don't even know how I'm gonna get to where I need to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and so I pull over on the side of the road, and I start bawling my eyes out, and
Mhm.
I'm just like, yo, God, please, if I'm supposed to be here, like, give me a sign. Like, I don't want to be here. I've lost my house. I've lost custody of my daughter. I lost my job. I ain't got no motherfucking gas in my tank.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
broke as fuck.
Like,
I don't have a job.
like if I'm gonna go somewhere, you've got to take me because I don't know how I'm getting there.
Yeah, at this point, like, what?
Yeah.
And but that was a really pivotal point for me, because at that point in time, and nobody could ever tell me otherwise,
Yeah.
I remember there was just like a voice in my ear, and it was like, look up, right? Just look up. And so I remember looking up, and I'm staring at the sun eye to eye. And we know when you look at the sun, that it's gonna blind you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I'm staring at the sun, and you would think that I'm thinking, oh, thank you. And so I'm literally thinking, how am I looking at the sun?
Yeah. Wow.
And literally it was like a painting that you would see, because then the clouds just started slowly moving. And I'm looking at it, and then I also hear another sound, and it's like, yo, like reach over in your bag.
Mhm.
And so as I'm still looking, I just take my hand over and I reach over in my bag and I pull $10 out.
Wow.
And kind of like I said on the speech, like, I'm gonna know if I had to, I was keeping track of 50 cents
You're right,
at the
right, right.
time.
Wow.
You know, and so I pulled $10 out, and I'm just like, damn.
Mhm.
And so I drive to the gas station, fill up that tank, and it didn't really give me a pathway to the rest of my journey and what I'm
Yeah.
doing now, but it let me know that you're here for a reason.
Yeah.
This is your next step. Go to the gas station, put gas in, and I'm gonna carry you. I'm not
Yes,
gonna do everything for you, but I got you.
but I got you. And in that moment, it's just reinforcement that you're seeing that there is purpose, that you might not know why you're here, but it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love that. And I think God just does touch each of us in our own way to just let us know. But I do believe that there's such a uniqueness and beauty in hitting that point of disparity. I don't wish it upon anybody, but there's a beauty in it when you choose to recognize it for what it is.
Yeah.
So today, how do you pull from that place to help women? When women come to you, are they in that deep point of disparity, or are they just trying to figure out how to put their pieces forward? Like, there's a couple different places. Where do you usually find, or where are they when they find you?
I think I get women on all different stages. You know, sometimes I get women who are still in a toxic relationship, and they're sending me recording videos of, listen to what he's saying to me. I need to get out of here, things of that nature. Sometimes I get women who are like, I just left him a week ago. What do I do? Yada, yada, yada. And sometimes I get women who are 2 years out of the relationship, but they still have not taken the time to heal. And they're
Mhm.
saying, man, I just keep running into the same assholes, and I know well enough not to get with them and leave, but
Mhm.
how do I get out of this cycle of attracting them and being attracted to them? And that's, where the process comes in.
And that's huge that you say that, because that's definitely a point that I wanted to touch on tonight, is that cycle. Because a lot of times, I come from a toxic relationship, and yeah, it just wasn't good. But a lot of times we can lie to ourselves, and we can think it really is good, because those moments when you're just in sync and maybe passions are running high, and man, it's good, like it's on fire, and you think like, this is the person for me because this is amazing, but really the reality is it's that high because it's always that low. But we get addicted to the pattern, because as bad as it is, you already know it. He'll ignore me for 3 days, we're going to have a fight, then we're going to make up, have hot sex, then he's going to ignore me for 3 days. But
Yeah.
it's like, you already know it, you know how it's going to go down. And sometimes, and I know that you'll get into this, sometimes we're the ones that are addicted to that pattern, that we just poke it, and we
Yeah.
just poke it. It's a tough place to be.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
It's a vicious cycle. And you hit the nail right on the head when you said it's an addiction. Um, and and I feel like if people don't know anything but that cycle, if they don't know love, if love is symbolized to them in that way, and that's how they grew up, and those are the relationships they're engaged in, they're not going to see anything else as love. And I think sometimes that's why somebody healthy can come in, somebody calm can come in, and we feel nothing. Battered women, we feel nothing, or we're just like, don't pay it no mind. And it's like, this is boring. And not boring as in I need to, go on shopping sprees and go to the amusement park or whatever, but like, there's no high and low, there's no arguments, there's no makeup sex, there's none of that. So this person doesn't like me as much, but this person makes me feel hot and fiery. They piss me off. They get me jealous. And those are the things that we know is love. And so, for one, we feel loved here, but we're also addicted to that. What is it? Oxytocin
Mhm.
that's
The
constantly
release.
being
Mhm.
secreted. as we're dealing with those highs and lows. And
Mhm.
so to cut something like that off, people need to understand it's like cutting any addiction. It's like
Mhm.
cutting any addiction. It's not going to go away overnight. You're still going to love this person. You're still going to think about them. You're still going to crave them. But who do you love more, them or yourself, you know?
Yes. So, and that's where the real work begins. When you start turning and focusing all that inward, and man, sometimes that's the ugly journey. Like that's the tough one. And real quick, Julie says, you are doing amazing stuff. You are so needed, Rachel. That's the whole point. I knew I had to have you on here because, like I said, I support other women, lifting other women. But
Yeah.
number two, you are very vulnerable. You're transparent in what you share. And that's what we need more of. We need leaders like you that know we're still a hot mess, but yet we're doing it. And we're a couple steps ahead of helping somebody else through that.
Oh,
So at
yeah.
what point did you start realizing that, okay, this is all going outward? I need to start fixing this inward. What was there something that happened, or is there something that triggered that started that journey that maybe somebody doesn't realize that's that's what they're being shown is what needs to happen next?
Um, besides the last story I just shared, which I wasn't even on this journey, and
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I love how you just said that, that maybe somebody else hasn't realized, because there's definitely a message in that. Sometimes we as people, we look for something huge, we look for this big sign, and we're waiting for something to happen that's going to change us, that's going to fix us, that's going to make our lives better. But I think that sometimes we have to just be okay with nothing happening and just realizing stuff ourselves and fighting hard enough for ourselves, because there was really no big moment for that. It was just, I'm sick of feeling like this.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I'm sick of being toxic. I'm sick of my daughter being exposed to this. This just doesn't feel right. Right.
Mhm.
And that wasn't even the time where I was just like, oh, now my life's all better.
No.
That was just the start of something great that's still continuing on today. And that was back in 2016. I think I was like 26, 27 years old. And
Okay.
at that time, I had started listening sessions with women. It was just free listening sessions. And I would just listen. I would just listen to other women. And
Right.
I learned a lot in that too.
And I love how you say like that sometimes it doesn't have to be some big thing, because I think sometimes we pray for our answer. Please tell me what to do, and it'll come right by, and it wasn't flashing, and it wasn't in pretty bows and all that, and so it's like it just goes right by you, and then you're back to like, show me what to do, show me, and I don't know what we expect that it has to take or what it needs to look like, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's simply stepping in front of that mirror and just saying, I got your back.
Yes.
Like, I got your back. What's it going to take? Right
Yeah.
now, that addiction, you talk about that addiction, and I want to share this piece because for me, I was leader, go-getter, all of the stuff, life was good, and it's like, how in the hell did I end up in a relationship that broke me, that I packed on 50 pounds? I like hid myself. People always think like you choose to like step into this space,
Mm.
and sometimes there's patterns. But I remember I knew my husband that was toxic, and I want to share this because this might be for somebody right now. I wasn't even going to talk about this, but I knew him when I was young. Well, our families knew each other in school, and we parted ways, came back. But he had red flags all over him. But he came back in my life when my dad died
Mm.
of cancer. So that opened up a whole nother loss, a whole other abandonment. And he was safe because I had known him in my past.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're just in a weak spot
Mm.
that you choose to not see all the red flags flashing and suffocating you, basically. And so sometimes we're just in life situations and we openly walk in
Yeah.
because you're just weak. So, what are some like red flags? I know you talk about things like this. What would you call red flags? Because some people call you just breathe too loud like a red flag. Like what are some things that you would consider like, yeah, sis, you better double think that a little bit.
Yeah, I think too. I'd love to hear from the audience with this one too, if they would list out some red flags in the comments there, because I always have a lot of fun doing that with people.
Oh, let's
uh,
yeah. Drop them down. What do you consider a red flag?
uh, there's levels to red flags, and I don't think that every red flag necessarily means ditch this partner, go running for the hills, right? Because there's levels to it. There's the, there's some women will call a red flag. He went a whole half a day without messaging me when maybe he really was just busy. But then that can also be one of those little red flags, right? When somebody is very inconsistent with communication just because they are a toxic person. Those are the littler red flags, right? I think those are the ones where you could talk with somebody about, hey, you know what? I'd like it if you messaged me more. Hey, you know what? This made me feel this certain type of way.
Mm-hmm.
And then we move into other red flags, right? Maybe somebody's kind of explosive. Maybe somebody's calling you names, right? Those are red flags where you might want to just say, yeah, I don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. We've got Samantha saying, always wanting to spend every waking moment with you. That's one of
Yes.
hers. Yep, yep.
That's that codependency.
Uh-huh. For sure. We got Julie over here saying manipulation and lies. That's just all across the board. Manipulation and lies.
I know I'm trying to see the comments on this thing.
Yeah. I got here. I'm flashing them across the screen. I don't know if your phone's able to see that. We got Mary Wood. Hey Mary, she's saying jealousy, inability to tolerate emotions, backhanded compliments. What's a backhanded compliment? I don't even know what that is.
I wonder if that's like sarcasm. Is that a
Oh,
sarcastic thing?
I think so. That would be kind of like a compliment that's not like you don't look as fat in that.
Thanks.
Yeah, like you look really good because your hips look smaller, or you look really, that makes you look younger. Who knows? Who knows? I don't even know. But yeah, let's see what else we got. Samantha again says never able to take accountability to hear when they're wrong.
Whoa. Yeah.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that one's a really tough one, and I feel like a lot of us get stuck in that, just wanting them, if they could just see, if they would just own up to it. And it's like, a lot of times men like that, they never do, and you hardly ever get a sorry.
Yeah, yeah. They won't see that it's that they're wrong in any way. Let's see. Ignoring your needs. Julie
Yeah.
says that, yep, that's a red flag. What does Karen say here? Karen says sometimes you see red flags, but you continue with the person because you want to be the one that helps. Ooh, Karen.
She got deep. She's getting deep.
Yep. She touched a nerve on me for that one. Because I want to share this. That was me. Okay. I went through hell trying to forgive more, trying to be better, trying to love more. I would beg God to please change his heart. I
Mm.
knew I didn't deserve this. I mean, like, seriously, but I would not leave. And I said it, I will not leave. I believed in commitment. I believed in devotion. And there were so many times until I got to that point where I can't do this anymore. Well, and I'm just going to say this because we're real here. God changed his heart in order for me to do the work that I'm doing. And he
Mm.
had a heart attack and he died.
Oh.
So don't tell me that God is not going to make happen what has to happen, because that's why we're here talking about this
Oh.
today. And I'm okay to say that. I prayed for him. God, please change his heart.
Yeah.
He had a heart attack. So, Karen, you know,
I'm not sure if
sometimes
I want to laugh or cry, or I'm not.
it happens,
You know.
people's mouths drop when I say that out loud, but it's the truth. It's the
Yeah.
truth. And so let's see here. What else we got coming on here? Samantha says, "Oh, you look so good." Oh, this must be a backhanded compliment here. "Oh, you'd look so good if you didn't eat that cake last night."
Um,
Ah, ah, gotcha. All right, what else we got here? We got some good ones coming in. Mary says, yes, being mean, but with a smile. Okay, bless your heart. There it is. Julie says, never apologizing is a red flag.
yeah.
Let's see. When they turn your greatest struggle against you. That's huge. That's huge.
Throwing stuff in your face, yeah, that
Yep.
you trusted them with.
Yep. One of my big ones was when my fear was like my dad left me, and like when I was 8, he drove across the country and was like gone. I never knew, and I'm talking like until like months ago, that was like abandonment. I never knew that was the term. um, but I shared that at one of my trusting points with my husband, and so anytime I'd be ready to go, he would say, and you're going to end up alone. Your sons are going to grow up, they're going to go on, and you're going to be all alone. Like he knew being alone was my fear, and it would break me every time. That crazy?
I had an ex that straight up said to me once, "Now I see why your father used to beat you. You deserved it."
Whoa.
Yeah. And
Wow.
those are the types of things that he would say. And he was so manipulative. And he would even turn around and say days later, "Oh, I only said that because I knew it would get to you." And they take it so lightly.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
in that relationship for about 4 straight years and then an extra 2 years on and off.
On and off
Yeah.
before it was finally able to. Wow. Wow. We got one more in here. Samantha says, sabotaging your career and your life. It's literally my life story. It was my dad and my exes. It's absolute truth.
Mm,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
So what do we do? What do we do to get to that place of healing without becoming bitter or over, like almost going the other extreme? Because I see this happen all the time, like quite a bit, where it's okay to stay vulnerable. It's okay to say these things hurt, but a lot of times we don't know how to navigate through that space. So we go from this one low point to this, I'm a badass. Nobody can get me.
Yeah.
I can conquer the world. I don't like it's, we do need people. We
Yeah.
do need help. So how do you ever see people jump from like one to the other and it still kind of works against them too?
Me.
Yeah, you. Mhm.
Me.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
I mean, I grew up in toxicity, and then I put myself in a lot of toxic situations. And then, even before becoming that badass that doesn't need anybody, I just was a very toxic person myself. I was very abusive, physically abusive. I was mentally abusive. I was verbally abusive because, and I think, uh, that badass started in the relationships where it was like, yo, y'all not about to keep putting your fucking hands on me. Y'all not finna just keep telling me what to do and I'm finna just sit here. Right? So it came a point where I started fighting back. And then that fighting back in those ways made it so now we just got two toxic people going back and forth. But it was me feeling like that's what I had to do to stand up for myself. That's what I had to do to be heard and to be seen, was to fight back in those ways. And then even after leaving those situations, I still felt like I had to have that guard up. I still felt like I had to always prove something, prove that I was worth not being abused, prove that I was worth not being manipulated, prove that you're not going to come into any inconsistency I see, get the fuck out of my life, because now you're like everybody else that I was just with. And now these are even those minor red flags, right? So I'm literally being toxic as hell to people that are just showing little things that we could have just talked about, because I've still got that guard up. And so to answer the question on how do you do it without being bitter, I can't necessarily answer that, because any battered woman that I've talked to, we just hit that bitter. Mm-hmm. And that's usually when we're saying, I need to fucking heal because I don't want to be this person anymore, and I don't want to be associated with people like that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And when you say that, the part of healing, one of the things that I discovered when I started kind of going back out there, my husband had died. I discovered his 5-year affair 9 months after he died. And there was just, when he was pulled from me, okay, we talk about it being like an addiction, yeah. Right? So a lot of people have the option to make this choice to part ways, and there's still kind of that sticky residue that you just can't get rid of it. You're still back and forth with each other. Well, he was gone.
Yeah.
He was gone. And I actually missed that piece as well. Like there was no fight. There was no nothing going on. It was crazy. But what I thought at one point was that I had healed. I feel good. I'm healed past this certain point. And then you start getting into maybe talking to somebody, and the only way, like it's so kind of jacked up, because the only way you can really tell if you're healing and advancing is if you go back out there. But then once you go back out there, it's like, okay, yeah, I guess I mean, it's almost like you got to take a step into the fire to be able to tell how far, it's such a tough place to be. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Oh, Michael says this is such good convo. Hey there, Michael. Thank you for tuning
Hey.
in. Thank you for tuning in. So for you, where have you gotten today? Like I, because I'm friends with you and I'm always cracking up at your page and stuff. Like, are you dating today? Or is it still kind of like that little toe in the fire? Like, this feels good, but then I'm going to take it out. This feels good, but then I'm going to take it out. Like, where are you today?
So today I am in a place where I am embracing my independence. I'm really, really just embracing knowing and learning that I'm more than capable of paying my bills, taking care of my family, managing the household, being head of household. And so I've been single 2.5 years, and I've learned all that about myself, is that I don't need somebody to make that stuff possible. I am very open to dating, but you explained it perfectly, where I jump into things, I notice my triggers, and then I kind of am like, okay, maybe I'm not ready yet. And so I think that there does come a time in life where women just have to be okay with being wild, and I mean that respectfully, right? Like, you have to be okay with just being independent, be okay with being single, be okay with getting to know yourself, loving yourself. And a lot of people will go to the sense of, well, I'm not dating until I'm done healing. But not me, because I'll go on this date, I'll go on that date, I'll see this person for a few weeks, I get to know them, I enjoy them, and maybe we're still friends, we still talk, but hey, I'm not ready to start dating yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so that's the place where I'm at, where I'm definitely putting myself out there, but my territory has been my main focus.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you looking at, does that give you comfort, almost like a safety zone? Because it's like you can meet people and you can have fun and you can get to know people, but it almost takes that pressure off of like, is this the one? Or if that happens, then it happens.
No,
Like,
I actually told my best friend, because she's a very amazing person, but once she gets around guys, she tends to be okay with changing things about herself, or being nervous, or thinking she's got to be this perfect person. But hanging out with different men for me, right? And this is going to sound crazy to some people, but putting myself out there, hanging out with all these different men, going out to the dating field and not thinking I'm going out and finding the one, but thinking I'm just going to go have some fun, it has actually increased my confidence by a lot. It's taken a lot of pressure off, and it's helped me actually. This again sounds crazy, but it boils down to how we need people. It's helped me accept myself more, because I went out with a mask off. I got to be myself, goofy, crazy, personalities and all, whatever you call it, and people were still just like down to kick it. We're okay with who I am, and it was like, oh, I didn't have to wear a mask to come out into the dating field. I could just be myself. And now, so now I just have this increased level of confidence whenever I'm dealing with males or females.
love it. And Julie says, great perspective. Great perspective. Now, were there any particular things that you began doing to focus on building confidence? And like for one of mine, and I share this often, is after I discovered the affair, I felt like that was the last straw after everything that I discovered after he passed away. And I I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I was disgusted with myself for not even seeing it. How could I have been so stupid? I mean, all of these like I just beat myself down
Mhm.
that I'd get tipsy lips, I drink my wine. That was just my place I had to go to just deal with it in that time. I started taking pictures of myself in my room. Because it was like I was never a selfie person, but I'm like, I've got to look at myself. And I couldn't in the mirror. Like I would cry. There was so much pain and hurt. So I started taking pictures of myself. And then I would zoom in and I would look at my eyes, and I just got to know her. And then I just started looking at other parts of my body and saying, you are freaking fabulous. Like, I fought for my confidence. Is there any things that you have found that have worked for you to bring you more of in that space for yourself? Anything?
There's a lot. The 5-step process that I created is the first thing,
Okay.
and awareness into who I am, my environments, what I'm doing in my life. That was a major thing for me. But as far as like little techniques, I use the mirror technique, kind of like the selfie, where I'd stand in front of a mirror and I'd stand in front of a mirror and I'd be like, I love you, right? Like, even if I didn't feel it, and it felt weird, like I'd be like, I love you. And then I'd like look at the things that I hated about myself, right? Like my teeth, they've always been crooked. I've always been insecure about them. My nose, I've always felt it was big. And so I would focus on those things and I'd be like, I love your nose, right? Like, I love your teeth. You've had those teeth for 30 years, And so the mirror technique was big to me, but then also the mindset technique, which is one of the exercises we do in my book, where I would document my thoughts morning, evening, and night.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
And once I learned how negative or self-critical I actually was, I then moved into correction thoughts, where the negative thoughts that were dominant throughout my days. And again, I would do this for like 7 to 14 days to figure out what the dominant thoughts are, right? I would put in replacement phases. So if I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, I look fat, every time my mind would say that, I'd say, you look great, right? And so it's almost like you're trying to retrain your whole brain in a sense into embracing who you are instead of just criticizing yourself all the time.
I love that. And let's just say for a moment, you mentioned book. What's your book?
The Awakening Process.
The Awakening Process. Can people get it through you, or how can people get it?
Yep, I could drop the links in the comments. They could definitely get it through me. I actually have 3 books. I have The Awakening Process, which is the 5-step process designed to help women heal, get over their past, gain confidence, and create a greater future. Nice. Then I also have a book called Do Men Love Bitches?
Oh, I like it.
Because there was that one book that was Men Love Bitches, but then it was like, but I don't think that people were viewing it the way that it is, right? And so like I go through all these details and explaining the things that men really do look for, but it's not a bitch, right? But it's what some people might think it is. And then I also have a book called Relationship Do's and Don'ts, and that was just based off of my fuck ups in relationships.
Do this, don't do that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Definitely drop the links in here. And when we get this replayed and even on YouTube, I want to be able to put the link so people can access that and even reach you. If somebody wanted to say, girl, I need to be part of this 5-step process, or I need your help, or I need Rachel in my life, how do you even begin that process? Is there like consultation calls? Is there a group? Like how do you bring people in?
Yeah, so usually people just go ahead and message me, and then what I do is I ask them, hey, can we schedule a call, 15 to 30 minutes? I listen to their story, figure out where they're at, and see if the coaching is even something that they'd be ready for.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Samantha says, do it. She's fire. I believe it, Samantha. I believe it. So
yeah, she's actually going through my course right now. So
congratulations, Samantha. That's exciting stuff. I'm glad to hear it. So I want to ask you a question. This has been a question that's been on my mind since before we even or since we first said, hey, will you be on this show?
Okay.
One of the things that I find that I run into is I share my story because I know at whatever place, whoever new is in my life, they need to hear it. I share about the affair after he died. I talk about this. And there are some times that people are like, you're stuck in that. Why do you keep talking about that? We've heard this like so many times. And I'm like, it's not for you then, because you don't get it. I share this because somebody today needs to know that that's where I was, and this is where you can come, or where you can get. Do you ever have people that are like, there she goes again, talking about the same old shit? Like, do you ever have that?
Yeah, and they can get the hell off my page. Bye.
Yeah. And I just wonder, words, because it's like, it doesn't mean I'm stuck in it.
Yeah.
It's my work today. It's how I've gotten through it. So I wanted to ask you that question. Like, do ever people think, there she goes again, talking about all her relationship trauma stuff? And it's like, it doesn't mean that you, what do they call that? Ruminating? Like, you just want to play it or feel sorry. It's like, it's not even that. So if that's how people take it, at least on my page, I'm like, then just get
Yeah.
off, because that's not why I'm here.
Well, and people, you gotta. One of the things that I learned to understand is that not everybody is on the same level. Not everybody has the same consciousness. Not everybody is woke. Not everybody I consider it a rebirth. And so there's some people who look at things like that and only see the surface of it. But then, if you're somebody that knows what you do, that, you as Elena, like, I know what you do. So when I hear that story, I know that it's a part of your purpose and it's meaningful. So play it over 1,000 times because you're helping somebody.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. And what cracked me up was like, oh, that writing worked because it triggered you. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, I must be tapping into some emotion. So this is like a good thing. And so it just cracked me up. So what's next for you? What do you see yourself doing forward? What's that look like?
Whew. So that is a loaded question because I have been organizing that. Currently, most of what I do is virtual. There's maybe one or two women that I meet face to face. But recently, there's three proposals on the table here. One of them, I was asked if I would start, and this wasn't something that I wanted to put out there until it was solidified. But one of the steps that I may be heading towards is doing groups with women in the jails.
Okay.
And then also, I was approached by somebody who would like me to start doing groups with battered women who are in the churches.
Okay.
And
Okay.
both of these groups would be physical. So it's a big deal to me because everything for me has been virtual. I'm very comfortable in the virtual setting. I have done face to face when I host my hikes, but those are usually just a couple throughout the summer, and then I'm back to virtual.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two things I'm thinking of. I just recently started working with teenage girls as well. That's a learning process. I'm not sure how far I will go with that. I definitely am in the adult realm, but yeah, speaking at those jails and then possibly at those churches are the next two things I'm thinking of doing.
Nice. Congratulations. I love, just because that's a risk. That's something new. That's a change. And I don't care how long you've been doing anything, any type of change is still makes us nervous and is scary. It's
Yeah.
scary too. But I'm a total virtual too. I built throughout COVID time, and that's just what I know. So Samantha says, gotta be free to talk about our story. Even when I was in the middle of the trauma, I told all on myself. Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So when somebody is sitting back and they're on that yo-yo, they're watching, listening, knowing they're in that toxic space. They know they're not in a good place, but they think maybe, just maybe, he'll change. It'll get different. What do you have to say to that person?
It's not going to change, and if it does, it's going to be for a short period of time. I hate to say indefinite 1,000%, because there are couples who do survive it, but we have to also understand that these are couples that are going through like intensive therapy. Most men refuse to do so. These are couples that are going to some kind of like recovery retreat, right? That they're really putting in, both people, this intense work. And so you as a woman, if you're sitting back and hoping for him to change, or doing all the changing for him, or trying to constantly just put these seeds inside of him and lecture him every day, but he's not putting any effort in, then you may be one of those couples that are toxic 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And so your best bet really is to just love yourself, figure out who you are, and take what steps are needed to do better for you and your family.
Yes, love yourself. And I was thinking about that driving home today, because knowing that we were going to have this conversation, I was so looking forward to this. And that piece of love yourself, when you think, if we're best friends and you're in this spot, what would you tell your best friend? Like, if that's what you're living, but your best friend came to you talking about all this crap,
Yeah.
what would you tell her? You would say, like, girl, move on. He's not going to change. What are you thinking? But yet we're like, no, maybe he'll change.
Yeah. Well, and that's because, and we're all guilty of it, but we run our lives off of emotion.
Yeah.
Most, especially women, because we're such emotional creatures, and we're so quick to make sorry, I'm like adjusting majorly.
Uh-huh.
And we're so quick to make emotional decisions based off of how we're feeling.
Yeah.
But when we're looking at a friend, our emotions aren't necessarily in that, so we could clearly tell them what to do. But also, you made me think of something that should be talked about a lot more, is because we all know that we need to love ourselves. We all know the self-love thing. But I think that where we kind of fail as a whole society is we're constantly putting that out there, but we're not really saying, like, okay, well, what does it look like to love yourself? What does it feel like to love yourself? What types of things do you do to love yourself? And again, we are a society that thinks everything that's on the right side has to feel good. And that's why we fail, because when it's not feeling good, we backtrack to something that gives us comfort. Mm-hmm. But loving yourself, healing, all that, it does not feel good, especially in the beginning. In fact, it's going to feel more shitty than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to have to rip a lot of Band-Aids off, let a lot of wounds open up and be exposed. Now, when we talk, like, I love how you said that we talk about loving yourself, but how do you actually begin to do that? Because my end, when I talk about confidence and we talk about building confidence, it's like you hear that, but how do you do that? Like, how do you start that? And so for me, one of the first processes, and it's not a fun word, but to me, it's like you got to get competent. You got to know about the thing. And the more you know about it, the more confident you begin to be about it. So if we were to think of loving yourself, what would be that first phase? Is it forgiveness? Like identifying what is it?
Well, I mean, maybe for some it's forgiveness, but my, true belief is that it's awareness.
I love that. Say again.
You have to first become aware of who you are, what your habits are, what your thinking's like, what environments you're in, right? What environments you're inviting, to start to pick that apart and then say, you know what? I'm saying that I love myself, but I'm keeping, because now I'm aware that I'm staying in this toxic situation. So do I really love myself? Now I've got to let go of this situation. That's how I love myself, not by being comfortable in it, right?
Yeah.
Or, hey, you know
That's
what? I'm
painful.
saying I love myself, but I keep waking up and eating 3 donuts. Is that really loving myself, or is that just comfort eating? Mm-hmm. Right? So we first have to gain awareness of what the hell we're doing every damn day. Because a lot of people are just going through the motions.
Yeah. And numb, like just numb, Samantha says, got to study yourself, awareness. And I love that. Yep. Like, honestly, I love that, because I've never thought about what are the steps to begin to love yourself. That's not the work I've been in. So I love the fact that you say awareness. And sometimes, and most times, it takes conversations like this for somebody to become aware.
Yeah.
We've got to have that outside piece kind of jolt us differently, kind of like wake us up so we can see things differently. Like what you mean, this cycle of fighting is not normal, like until you hear these things or can see things differently, that begin to expand that level of awareness that we have. So I love that. I love what you do. So as we begin to wrap things up, what are some just little nuggets that you want to drop down? Like let your expertise and your light shine, because you radiate just goodness. I want to talk about the TikTok videos. You talk about confidence. How in the heck do you get on there? I mean, I love that. I love watching your dancing and your moves. Like, how did you get into TikTok?
I learned that you have to learn how to be creative in order to reach the people that you want to reach. I think, and we live in this world that's forever changing. And even if there's some things where you think like, that's silly, I'm not getting on and doing that dance. If I could do that dance and reach 1,000 people, and then 20 of them are going to join my group, hey, I just did what I set out to do. So I'll look silly on this video, but I have a purpose.
Yeah. Well, you look awesome. I'm like, I need to move like that.
Yeah,
No.
and so that's all about just reaching people. It's, about having fun, getting a message across in other ways other than just kind of sitting there and talking.
Mhm. Love it. So yeah, let your expertise go. What nuggets do you have to drop on your listeners right now?
Sure. I'm actually just going to go through the process because that's one of the things that's my expertise right there. And so it's a 5-step process that I use to help women get to where they want to be. And we start off with that awareness, right? We become aware of our environments, who we are, things that we've been engaged with, what we're attracted to, right? And what we're attracting. And then after that, we move into accountability, right? Because now that I'm aware even of my toxic traits and that I might have been in toxic environments, you have to now take accountability for where you are, right? There comes a time where we have to stop saying, I have trust issues because of that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reason I'm not in a relationship is because of that person, because you know what? That person may have caused your trust issues, but you still have them because of you, right?
Yeah.
You are choosing to remain with those trust issues instead of healing, right? And so
Yeah.
we move into this accountability, but then also with accountability, start holding the people in your life accountable.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
And don't be scared. Start letting people know when they hurt you. Start letting people know when they're taking advantage of you. Start letting people know when they're crossing your boundaries. Don't be scared to lose people, because if you lose them because you're holding them accountable,
Yeah.
they're not aligned with you to begin with.
Yep. Yep. I love that.
And then so that's the step 2. Step 3, we move into forgiveness, acceptance, right? Because now we're aware, now we've taken accountability for ourselves, and we're in this really raw spot. You're going to be in this really raw spot, and so you also have to, just like you forgave that man 30 million goddamn times, excuse me, I
Yep.
didn't mean to do that, guy. Just like you, my bad. Just like you forgave that man all them times, you have got to learn to forgive yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then also let go of that anger that you may have thought you've passed. So we really sit in that forgiveness, and then we forgive ourselves, but now I have to accept myself,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter that I want to be 10 pounds lighter. I accept myself at 10 pounds heavier, because that confidence, that strength, that's what's going to take me to that 10 pounds lighter. And that's just metaphorically speaking.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And
That's
then
a
after we move into, or after, and then after, you move through your forgiveness and acceptance, right? Then we start to do plan and action, because honestly, women get stuck in just talking.
mhm,
We
mhm.
will talk. We'll tell anybody the story that'll listen. We'll vent, we'll talk some more, we'll send paragraphs, we'll vent some more. And we'll be doing that for 5 years, right? And so I move my ladies into a spot where now you literally need to sit down, make a plan, start taking action, because we've heard how you've been done. We've heard how you've been healing. We keep hearing that you're this powerful woman, and you damn sure are this powerful woman, but I want to see it.
Yes. Yes. Love that.
And then
Hmm.
the step 5 is pretty much living the new reality, which we're living the reality the whole time that we go through it. So
I
in a
love it.
yeah.
Wow. And about how I mean, does the length of time vary, or do you actually have like a set program that moves you in this time frame?
I have a set I started off with a set program until I realized how much time varies.
That's
Yeah.
why, yeah, it's got to be, because there's got to be places that some of the women get that they're there longer than maybe somebody else. So how do you navigate through all of that?
uh you know uh for an example, like in group coaching, sometimes when I feel like I'm rushing the women through something, or I see that it's a very sentimental time and it needs to be taken in, what we'll do is we'll probably show up, reflect on it some more. I won't even give another assignment
Mhm.
until that next week, so they have a whole nother week to sit on that last one, so it's 2 weeks. And actually, in the group, Samantha could tell you, we just switched it. We used to meet every Wednesday, but because of this because of the intensity of everything that we're doing along with our outside lives,
Mhm.
we just switched it to every 2 weeks. So it's like you start with a plan sometimes, and God is like, let's switch it up a little bit.
Yep, yep. And that to be fluid and flexible, man, like that's key. But it is amazing when you're doing this kind of work, how fast a week can go. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like 3 days has gone by and you haven't even like moved your notebook from the last time. So 2 weeks, that's good. That's as far as like from one point to another to another. Samantha says, I love how we're able to extend out till we're finally ready to move. And I just moved. Ooh,
Yeah.
congratulations, girl. That's awesome. That's awesome. So if people want to reach you, uh, they can message you here, or Facebook's the easiest place. Are you on Instagram, TikTok? Well, I know you're on TikTok. Are you on Instagram?
Yeah, TikTok would be a horrible place to try to reach me. Like I usually direct all my traffic from there. So like yeah, just Facebook, because then I could send the links to my private group and then wherever else we need to go from there.
Nice, nice. So if anybody has any last questions, we have amazing feedback today. We had Melissa Morales on here as well. She chimed in. Um, how do you feel about what we covered tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here to support you. I was just showing up. I think that we bounce really well off of each other. And I really just embrace being able to be on a screen with another powerful woman. I love it.
I love that. I love that. So if we've got no other questions coming in, I absolutely loved tonight. Thank you. That's absolutely what I love. I want to get your links to your books. The work that you do is amazing. And I just love being part of your healing journey as well, because if we really are honest with each other, no matter how far we've gotten, there's always further to go. There's always another level deep in there. Great conversation, ladies. I was late, but I enjoyed what I did get to watch. That's awesome. And I know Sue, her and I have connected about some other things in the past. So good stuff tonight. Rachel, I am so honored to have you join us this evening, and to really just talk about, the toxic stuff. It's heavy, it's hard, it's real, and we're all human, just doing our best.
Yeah.
We're all just doing our best. So we will wrap it up there. Again, this is brought to you by Besitos Beauty. So check out your lipstick, ladies, with your color and confidence. And Rachel, we will see you next time. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.